here we go. Next on the show, Danny Castillo, UFC vet, WEC vet, also NAIA All-American. Don't forget that. And two-time. Really, you gotta update Wikipedia. They only had you once.
Yeah, unacceptable.
And the heart and soul of Team Alpha Male. Anyone talks about Team Alpha Male, your name comes up. I've been in the fight game for, what do we do? Like 19 shows, 20 shows, 7 years. And nothing but good things to say about Danny and what he's done for the area. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
And funny story about Danny. So I'm sure you get this a lot, right? The kind of like the resting bitch face, right? Of MMA, like, because you look at you get that intimidating look.
Very serious.
And as soon as you talk to you, you're like the nicest guy ever. I thought you hated me for years because we had fighters on from Team Alpha Male, and we were doing tickets and contracts. It wasn't really fun. And you come in, I'll never forget the first time we met. It was at the Jackson Sports Arena. I think Feely was fighting, and he just had this intense game face look. I'm like, dude, I don't think this guy likes me. I think he hates me. I'm the promoter, so that dynamic. Not too many people like the promoter. You love him or you hate him. And then we were in Arizona, at Feely's UFC fight. Literally shook your hand, and it's like, oh my God, this guy's like the nicest guy ever. Do you get that a lot?
In fact, it got me into a lot of fights when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Switching schools, it's just kind of my face. I have just a kind of stone cold face, and then when you see me at work or backstage or at a fight, it gets kind of more intense because I'm an intense guy, especially when when we're at the highest level or any it doesn't matter if it's a local show or a UFC show. It's just like, it's really important. It's work.
It's
work. It could be the best day of your life and it could be the worst day of your life. So I take my job serious, and I'm always focused and pretty intense backstage.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You looked like you're about to kill me. I was like, man, what did I do to this guy? And then, but if anyone knows you or talks to you, it's the exact opposite. He's like a father figure to all these younger guys, a brother. It is amazing the impact you've had on these guys. And you talk about a team, the heart and soul of the team. When I say that, I mean, I think you are the heart and soul of that team. You care about these guys. You love them, as brothers, as family. And it's just funny, right? Because, if they don't know you, like, man, this guy's so serious and pissed off. And as soon as you open your mouth, I'm like, wow, this guy's the nice. And anyone knows you, you're one of the nicest guys ever. It's funny how that works.
Yeah. I wish it was the opposite, and I'm trying to work on that a little bit more. But
it's who you are. I mean, you're an intense guy.
I don't know if it's better to have the super presentable look to yourself. You know what I mean? Then everybody wants to come up to you and be like, hey, what's going on? We're new best friends. So maybe it is better to sort of have that serious look on your face at all times. Kind of keeps people from getting out of your personal space too much. But, it's one of those things. Like I hear you talking and everything, and you do seem like a guy that is probably, thinking a lot about the fight coming up, the things going on. And when that happens, you can't help but sort of zone out and be a little serious. Hey, how you going? Like, oh, that guy was kind of rude to me. No, I was just focused on my fighter and the fight coming up. So, I totally understand that. Do you find that your intensity level does ramp up the closer you get to fight time, like once the fight's going on, or is it more so the leading up to it where you really put in the hard work?
I think it varies for each fighter. I coach each fighter completely separate from other fighters because we're all individuals and people have different personality traits. And, I try to adjust to those as much as I can. So it varies. And now that the coaching thing is really starting to take off for me, I have a lot of female fighters. So that's a lot more challenging.
Why is that?
We all know why, but it's a really, really weird dynamic in terms of trying to get the fighters to totally, fully have confidence and trust in you, and me being serious for the most part. And there's things in the fight game that I'm very serious about, and that's being on time and showing up. And some of the fighters don't get it and they hate it, but at the same time, it's I get fighters that I stopped coaching the team right around COVID time. So now I just only work with individual fighters.
Got it.
So as far as the team, I don't run any practices with the team, but I show up to every sparring session and just try to give my input with the fighters that I don't work with, the fighters on the lower end.
Mhm.
And I just try to give them as much of my knowledge and experience that I've had. And, I had 22 fights in the big show, 8 with the WC, 14 in the UFC, and I fought nothing but killers.
I think your opener was WC was Cowboy Donald Cerrone, which is welcome to the big show.
It was on 5 days notice.
Wow.
I had just finished my 5th professional fight. And when I got into it, I kind of got shotgunned into the fight scene, and I was okay with that. And Uriah, he was a great friend of mine, and we've been friends since we were 15 years old.
Yeah.
And he was like a mentor through the whole process. And I think he believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time. And I was actually at a bar celebrating a victory with my friends, and we were at the Pine Cove, and I was drinking a pitcher of beer, and I get a phone call from Uriah, and I'm like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
On a Monday night. And I answer the phone. He's like, hey man, I got a really awesome opportunity for you. And he was like, the WC wants to give you a fight in Sacramento. And
Wow.
I was like, this weekend? He was like, yeah, this weekend.
What was your weight like?
I just had finished, so I fought Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Or no, it was probably a couple of weeks before, so I wasn't too out of shape. And I was a pretty small lightweight my whole career. And now the guys are huge.
Oh gosh,
it's insane
monsters.
how big these guys were. But I'm not a big guy, 5'8.5" with Jordans on. So I was always a pretty small guy. I've never been over 200. And nowadays these lightweights get up to 200s in the off season, which is really wild for me.
It's not good for your body though, I think.
The way they do it, it's all scientific now.
Water weight, a lot of it.
I feel like an old guy when I say stuff like this, but and I talk to the fighters, it's like, you guys got it easy, sounding like
back
an
in
old
my
man.
day.
But the UFC has really invested a lot of time and money into it. I guess Dana White saw too many people missing weight.
Yeah.
So now there's dietitians on staff. You go to the PI, they do all your testing. They tell you exactly everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
When you're laying in bed for 24 hours, how many calories you burn, how many calories you should take in, how many training sessions you should have. So it's really a lot easier than it was back then. And fight week, they come, they don't have to worry about any food. All their meals are prepped.
Wow.
They have 4 meals, 2 snacks throughout the day.
So they're spoiled compared to when you fought, it was figured out.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, let's get some Pedialyte. And
you have a scale in your backpack and you're checking your weight all the time. It's different.
It's really amazing to see how the sport grow. And, now it's, I'm not sure. I'm sure I would be able to compete, but nowadays where I came into the sport, I was fairly old at the time. For a fighter, I believe I was 27 when I took my first fight.
Yeah.
Done.
And all I had was wrestling experience. I've been a bunch of school fights in high school, a few bar fights in college, but nothing to the level where I felt like I was able to go in there and perform. And Uriah had a perfect game plan for the team, and it's just I couldn't ask for a better team, a better mentor, and it worked out well for me.
Yeah. And what a career. 22 fights in the big show, WC, UFC. Where did you do your first fight? Tell us your background first. So wrestling background in Sacramento, went to Menlo, where Josh Emmett also went. Where did you? No, you weren't.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
I went to Sac City first, and Josh Emmett wrestled at Sac City. Then I was the first class at Menlo College, and now Menlo it's such a small school. It's I don't know what the attendance is now, but I believe it was less than 1,000 when I went there.
Yeah,
and we've had 5 UFC fighters there. So
that's impressive.
Who else went there?
It was me, then a kid named Cody Gibson.
I remember him from Fresno.
Yeah, he's on the Ultimate Fighter this season.
What?
Cool.
Yeah. They brought in some old vets.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's on the Ultimate Fighter. Carlos Esparza.
Yeah.
Former strawweight champion. Ashley Evans Smith. and Josh Emmett.
Wow, that's a nice little
really
pedigree
impressive.
coming from Menlo.
Really
That's what I'm
weird.
saying. That's a tiny school. I think now it is only about 2,000. Like literally, it hasn't grown that much, but I mean, that's a lot of talent to come
You look
out.
at some of the big wrestling programs like Ohio, and they have maybe double that, but it's just like their attendance is 80,000.
Oh yeah, Lance Palmer.
Yeah, and just that small school for some reason or another, we're able to produce 5 UFC fighters, which is pretty cool.
But go ahead.
I was going to say, I went to a school we were talking about earlier, Notre Dame down the road at Belmont. And for me as a student, I did find that going to a smaller school did allow me to really delve into things. Like I remember going from Notre Dame to UC Santa Barbara, where my my biggest class at Notre Dame was 20. My smallest class at Santa Barbara was 30. Your teacher hours, they're just non-existent at these big schools. But when you're at a smaller school, you can really get that information from that person. I wonder if maybe that helps out because, there's less of a, large program of all these guys that I got to take time with, kind of like what you were saying too, where you go from basically teaching the whole group to now individual lessons. I think you can get a lot more from that. So maybe that has something to do with it.
I think so also. But to be completely honest, at the time, I just wanted to wrestle. So in my eyes, I went to school to get a bachelor in wrestling. That's when I transferred, I asked what was the closest major I was to, and I was like, I'll take that one. So it was mass communications. So I mean, that's what I did. I just kind of put my whole heart and soul into wrestling, and it was my last opportunity to become what at the time was my goal, is to be a national champion. It didn't happen for me in high school. I wasn't a high school state champion. I didn't even place. Junior college, I had a pretty good junior college career. And just at the thing about wrestling, and for some of your listeners, is it doesn't really matter how good of a season you had. I walked into the state tournament with 2 losses in my record. And, I went 1-2, and then that was my whole season. So everything I did throughout the season didn't really matter.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cutthroat with wrestling. And the last match always, is the most important match. And I was able to, really, really invest the time. And I just feel like I just didn't have enough time. I started late. My first year in high school was my first time wrestling. And I wrestled for a really small program, was horrible coaching. I just really enjoyed it. And going to I went to Laguna Creek High, and I had a better coach there, and I started to do a little bit better. But it was just me going to Sac City in the off season and working in their open room that they had, and I just kind of really dove into it, and I wanted to be the best I could, and that was just one goal. I just kind of had a one-track mind, and that was just to be the best. So everything I was doing at those times was running and wrestling and doing my best to reach that goal. When I went to Menlo, we had lived in the dorms because it's just really too expensive to live in Menlo Park and Palo Alto and even in East Palo Alto.
The heart of Silicon
Just get a place in Atherton. That's really easy. What's the problem?
Come on.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
We ended up having in the summer we had an apartment, and we had 8 wrestlers in a 3-bedroom house.
Must have smelled pretty good.
And, it was just
and
it
so
was a mess.
When you're at Menlo, where is the WC UFC at this point? I mean, obviously I know it was around, but was it like, what were your thoughts of, hey, I want to go there, like that's my goal, or was that in your mind at all at college?
None of this.
Nothing. So you're just trying to get a degree and get through school and then figure it out.
I would visit Uriah. He went to Davis, so we'd go party. Back then he wasn't really fighting. I don't think fighting was that big. In the regional shows. I mean, I guess they had their Gladiator Challenge, but I'd never been to an MMA fight. I went to one UFC fight, and it was Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell in Las Vegas. And my girlfriend at the time took me for my birthday, and that was my first experience in an MMA fight. And then, it's just going to age me, but, Uriah started killing it, and we're on MySpace. And we're just going back and forth. After college,
was he on your top 8?
Yeah.
Tom and Uriah Faber. Those are the only friends I needed.
After college, I was kind of forced to get a job because I wasn't going to come back home, and I wanted to kind of stay in the area and help out the wrestling program. So I was forced to get a job, and got a job, kind of, finessing my resume. I got a job doing sales and marketing for a media company, and it went well. I mean, I was making pretty good money, and I had some big accounts. And after I landed those big accounts, is reoccurring money, so I didn't really have to do it too much. I mean, in fact, I was doing a lot of MySpacing and on Facebook and all that stuff, killing company time. And they after three years, maybe 3.5 years, they brought in a consultant in, and they were just like, well, we're going to give you more salary, less commission. And I just, at the time, I just really didn't enjoy my life working behind a desk. It's just not for me. I like that. And at the time, Uriah had just got put on to the WEC. The WEC was around, but it wasn't on TV.
Mm-hmm. Was that Tachi, right? Was at Tachi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was at Tachi. Nick and Nate Diaz were fighting on those shows, and no one knew who they were.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the time, Versus, they had their tap out show, and then Versus put the the WEC on TV, so I was able to watch it, and I saw Uriah win a world title. And we'd lost a little bit of contact after college, and then I messaged him and just kind of
slid in his DMs, what's up with that? Get in there.
Just talking crap to him like I always did. We're athletes, so that's kind of the norm. And he was like, you should really think about fighting. And I was like, what are you talking about, Uriah? I have a full dental vision, 401k.
Why would I do this?
I don't know how to fight really.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just like wrestling. You're a good wrestler.
You'll figure it out.
You'll do well. So after the consultant gave me the ultimatum, if I wanted to take more salary or find another job, I spoke to my mom and a couple friends, and they were just like, yeah, you better do it, man. You're not getting any younger. So
it's a big decision to make. 20, was it 25 or
26? No, almost 27.
Jeez.
And so I decided to put in my 2 weeks. I stayed for a month and trained my replacement, and moved back home and started fighting. And I had nothing when I started fighting. My buddies were telling me, had a little bit of savings, but I had no car. I lived in the Bay Area. We took the Caltrain everywhere. It wasn't that big of a deal. Moved back home, had no car, lived with my buddies, 3 buddies in a 3-bedroom house, and they're just like, we'll support you till you start making money.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah. So, had my back, and I was taking the bus to the gym, which was really humbling, and just I'm on the bus, and practice starts at 9:30, and I lived in South Sac, and the gym was downtown, so there's no fast way. So it was a 45-minute on the bus all the way to morning practice, and then another 45 minutes back home. So the beginning was pretty tough, and I didn't have the luxury to come back. So I would just stay in the gym and take every single class. So I was at the gym for 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Kind of fast forward me. And then after 3 weeks here, I was like, you're ready for a fight? And I'm like,
I've been here 3 weeks.
What are you talking about? And sure enough, he was right. I had my first fight. I finished the guy.
Where was that at?
That first fight was in Porterville.
So like King of the Cage or one of those,
I believe it was a gladiator fight. Gladiator fight.
You fought one of the guys that like set up the cage or something, or did they give you someone?
It's a funny story, man. I'm in the backstage and I'm getting ready to warming up, and it's raining, pouring rain, and there's rain inside the warm up area. Piece of mat not bigger than a mattress, and I'm just like, man, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, getting into a fight with people watching is a pretty scary deal. Like, I don't care who you are. It's just.
If it happens right away, you don't have to think about that. But when there's anticipation,
the lead up, So the kid showed up for weigh-ins, didn't show up for the fight.
Wow.
So I'm backstage warming up, and they're just like, we have a guy that'll fight. He
230.
He was like, he'll fight. And when you say set the cage, he might have set up the cage. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I saw that a lot.
He had I don't know, 7 fights, probably 3 and 4 or something like that. And I was just like, well, all my friends drove 3 hours away to watch this. I mean, I have no choice. Go out there and scared, almost kind of trembling in effect, and then just kind of all right, man, it's time to do it. You just got to go. Cage door shuts. I go out there, throw the biggest kick and miss. Almost fall down to the ground, shoot in on a double leg, and then finish the fight in the rear naked choke. And then it just seemed like every 6 weeks Uriah was coming to me. He was like, man, you can take another fight.
Yeah, you're ready. Let's do it.
So by then I got 5-0, won my fight. I was at the bar hanging out. Uri called me. He's like, yeah, they're going to offer you a 3-fight deal in the UFC. You get to fight at home in Sacramento.
Nice.
I know the kid. He's not good. I mean, he's pretty tough, but you're wrestling. You're just gonna
take him down.
beat him up. Yeah. And I was just like, all right, man, you've been right this whole time. I trust you. We get to fight week, and it's Donald Cerrone.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
He's okay.
I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
I just saw this kid on TV on the Tap Out show. Like, he's a badass kickboxer. Like, he's like, dude, you'll wrestle him, no problem.
Mhm.
And
What was his record at the time?
I think he was undefeated.
Of course. You got it. No big deal. Just
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone.
But I was undefeated. And,
Yeah.
so he was like, I wrestled with the guy. He sucks on the ground. You'll kill him.
Yeah.
It didn't work out that way. I took him down, punched him a couple times, got caught in the arm bar, and that was it. And then my first fight was on TV.
Wow.
In Arco Arena, my
Wow.
hometown arena.
That's so cool. Well,
Yeah.
minus if it would have.
It was almost a sold out crowd. I mean, they don't do the top parts, but for the most part, it was a big deal, and it was on TV. And,
Yeah.
And I made my show was $3,000, and I lost. So I made
So no win bonus.
No win
Yeah.
bonus.
So when you were in Vegas, when you said you went to your first, the Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, did you ever think in your wildest imagination that you'd be in the cage, or were you in there like, I could do that, or you were just enjoying the show, or was there a part of you that like, man, maybe I could do this?
Never thought that.
Really?
But I saw the level of wrestling. I'm just like, oh, that guy's wrestling's not that good.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, maybe I could do that. And just it wasn't. I wasn't thinking that this would be my career path at all.
Well, I feel like the most successful UFC fighters, they all have that wrestling base. Those are the easiest transition, I guess. I think it's the discipline, the weights. You got to be tough mentally to be a wrestler. So I feel that's an easier transition to a kickboxer or, a jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, wrestling is the base universally.
That's the you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's the hardest to learn. It's the hardest to learn. So any guys out there that are thinking about fighting, wrestling should be something that you really dive into, because I have guys who are amazing MMA fighters, amazing jiu-jitsu, amazing stand-up, but it's just like, you're going to fight a D1 wrestler and you give me 8 weeks to prepare you. Like, there's no, I don't think no coach on the planet is going to be able to get you ready for that level.
And so are you coaching all Team Alpha Male guys?
Yeah, I have a really good Muay Thai kickboxer at a CSA. So we kind of have a little.
They're at a San Jose? Or?
They're in Dublin.
Dublin now. Okay.
Dublin.
Okay.
Yeah, his name's Gaston Bolaños. He was in Bellator. He just got signed to the UFC, and he won his first UFC fights a few months ago.
So when people say Team Alpha Male coach, it's pretty accurate because all your guys are alpha. What's your roster like? How many guys do you have on now?
Yeah, just pretty much all
the pro guys
except one guy from CSA. It's still my team. I still fly the flag.
Yeah.
It's just now it's starting to turn into more of a business for me.
Yeah.
And instead of just kind of having that same loyalty, which I still do, don't get me wrong, but now it's kind of like I'm trying to market myself as a coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I get buried underneath the team banner where it's just like some of the other teams and they don't really mention me for coach of the year just yet. So it's just kind of like, oh, your eyes team, all that stuff. So right now I'm just trying to market myself a little bit more as an individual coach. And,
kind of get out of Uriah's shadow a little bit, or
not that I have a problem with it, but it's just like, I'm not getting,
the recognition you deserve
or notoriety of any of that stuff. So trying to kind of switch it a little bit. And
because I'm pretty involved with these guys, obviously watching them come up on our fighting organization, and I feel like it's the opposite of anyone that really knows what's going on. I feel you are the heart and soul of the team, obviously, of the pro Team Alpha Male. And like I said, everyone I talk to, Feely, and all these guys, they're like, man, that's my coach, which is kind of cool. And I feel it's important that you fought, how many total, 27 total fights?
Yeah.
And they respect that, that you've been through it. You've been in the mud with them,
The day and age of just single discipline fighters is starting to go.
Yeah,
You guys,
can't.
It's hard for me to, I shouldn't say this because it sounds terrible, but if you've never been locked in the cage with another man and depending on a win check to eat and to survive,
Yeah,
then you don't
understand
necessarily,
it.
you don't know
Yeah.
exactly how it feels, and you'll never understand how it feels.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of coaches that get nominated for Coach of the Year that never fought, and just like, well, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. A lot of that stuff is just media stuff also.
Yeah.
So I don't really take it to heart. But at the same time, it's just like, you've never been kicked or punched in the face by a guy who can take you down.
Yeah.
How are you going to give some guy, the advice to win a fight in there, or to even understand where they're coming from, or their feelings, or what they feel like on fight day or fight week alone?
That's what everyone with our fight organization be like, oh, like Max or Feely or Emmett, they're like, man, thank you so much. You did so much for us. And I'm like, I mean, not really. We put the platform on for these guys, but I never went in the cage. I never fought. I didn't train. I didn't diet. So I hate to take even a little bit of credit. It's like, no, like you did that,
But you did do a lot for the fighters. I mean, there's a lot of other shows that were just kind of, terrible, not the same experience,
Mhm.
not the same, not the same crowd. Like, you were able to put it together. And I mean, how many how many UFC fighters came out of there?
I think it was 31. We counted the other day. I'm like, wow, like
Still crazy.
That's insane. And each one of those fighters will look back to you and just be like, yeah, he helped me get my start. And that's
Well, for us, it was more, it wasn't primarily about money. I have a business background. I didn't want to lose money. But they could feel like our organization, it's all guys I grew up with. Tim, I've known since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
James and Jeff since I was 8 years old. So it was a family, and we cared about these guys. Like Feely, Feely's first fight was we were in Placerville, and I think he had like take off his ankle bracelet because he had some kind of charge on him, like a fighting charge or something.
Sounds about right.
They had to take it off. He fought and then had to put it back on. It's something crazy. Like, he's fought Vayman Dennis, and he's like a little brother. He's family. Like when we see Fluffy Anthony Hernandez just killing it right now, or Emmett fighting for the title, makes it all worth it, because it's, man, a lot of stress, everyone's like, oh, we're just banking in the money. I'm like, not really. Like, if you're in it for,
parts. You got the security, you got the setup, you got people, the concessions, all that stuff.
And drunk people for 8 hours and their son gets knocked out and they're pissed. The whole family's pissed off.
The family wants to fight the other
Oh,
family.
it's brutal. It's like a Raiders game, And but it was we met a lot of amazing people, but I'm always hesitant. I'm like, no, like, I appreciate that, but I can't even imagine. I played football in college. That's about it. But that's a team sport. With that, it's like, it's just you in a cage. And Feely says it best. He's like, there's two people locked in a cage, and someone's going to be someone's bitch, and it's not going to be me. And it's true. Like it's the ultimate sport. And I'm always super hesitant. I'm like, nah, man, like I would never do that.
Sometimes it's I have a hard trouble with that also, but sometimes it's good to just kind of look back at it and just kind of reminisce and just like, yeah, I had a small part in that, and I feel the same way. And sometimes when I look back at the things I did in my career or my coaching career, let alone, and I just kind of look back and kind of just look at it and just relish it a little bit. But at the same time, I kind of grew up in, a Hispanic household where it's just like, there's always someone better than you. Don't think you're such a badass and all that stuff. So I kind of, that humbles me a lot also. So just, keep your nose down and keep working hard, and, you'll reap all the benefits. And that's kind of how I look at it. But every once in a while, it's always good to sit back and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and one thing I did want to get at, I felt one thing that we did well with the West Coast Fighting Championship is that we treated fighters like people, not like commodities that that was a lot of things that I see at the shows, that they're basically lowballing the hell out of you guys. Even though you are the reason that people are coming to this show, they don't feel that you're the most important part of the show because they can kind of just replace you with another fighter. We never felt like that. We always felt like these guys are putting their lives on the line. They're putting their time and effort into this thing. Let's give them the best thing they can. I do remember, like, at a couple shows, we had food for these guys to eat after they weighed in, and they were like, we've never seen this before. You know?
Yeah, with fruit and Pedialyte. I'm like,
that's what I'm saying.
You guys just cut 20 pounds.
Right.
Like, well, it's the least we could do.
It was like some pasta at one spot, I remember, and like these guys were just like, wow, like, thank you. You know, this was such a thing. And like, I do wonder, like, just how many shows must treat you guys like just kind of like
shit.
Like like racehorses, basically. You know what I mean?
That's another reason why when I go into some of these shows, you just kind of already, because I've been around so many different shows, so many different organizations on the local level, on the smaller side, you just kind of already assume that, you know, that's how they're going to treat the fighter. So when I do come in, just like, I'm here to do a job.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you're here to do the job and just to make the most money to profit on the show. Some shows are exactly like that. Some shows aren't. And I felt like your show wasn't like that at all. And it was, you know, I need an extra ticket for my mom. It's like, you know, other shows aren't going to do that. You know, and you guys are pretty open. It was a great venue. You know, how many venues do you have? 3?
We were up in the fairgrounds,
Placer Fairgrounds, Yuba City,
4.
Jackson State Academy, and then the big guy,
Lionsgate.
Yeah,
McClellan Conference Center. So I think it was 5 total.
Yeah, I think I've only been to 3, maybe 2, and it was always a great show.
Yeah,
it was good. Good. It's a small history. Any thoughts of?
So I got to be honest. I wouldn't say like Uriah and I are like best friends or anything. We're acquaintances and we're friends, you know. But when they opened the show out there at what casino is it? Hard Rock out there, I was like, man, it would have been nice to get a call, you know, and maybe do something together. As I feel, man, we grinded for, dude. I remember throwing up in the bathroom the first one. Like, what do we get ourselves into? We had thousands of people, had no idea what we're doing. And I have nothing against Uriah. Like, he did a lot for us and we did a lot for his fighters, and it was a great relationship. But it would have been nice, you know, it'd been awesome to carry the West Coast fighting out there. I would have done it if we had a casino. I'm not setting up, my team's not setting up any chairs at 4 a.m. anymore. And it's just, we can't do that. But if the right opportunity came up, like, we would have done that Hard Rock deal for sure. And it wouldn't have been about money. Like, we believe in the name. So that was one thing. And, you know, sorry, Uriah, but, you know, a call would have been nice to be like, do you guys want to co-promote? Even just take the name, like, just continue it, have a small part in it, would have been nice. But no, we're not going to do any of the setups because we used to have a blank canvas. We'd put like 3,000 chairs. We'd have to do rows. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. I was going to say most of our shows required at least a good amount of volunteer hours just to make it happen, you know, and there's this behind the scenes stuff that no one really sees of, you know, having to rely on our family. It's sometimes to, you know, do the certain jobs like concessions as mom's over there, you know.
Yeah, my mom and dad are selling hot dogs.
Yeah, right. Like, just to make it work, just so we can make it work, you know. And that's one of those things is that I do think that one of the issues we ran into, because we talked about it for years, like, hey, let's do another show. Well, what started happening was a lot of our champions became UFC fighters, you know, like there was one time where we were looking at like, well, he's gone, she's gone. Like, who do we have available in this area that's still willing to fight? And I think what we found was it was tough because like I kind of had the idea, like, let's do more of an intimate show. You know what I mean? Like, just 3 fights, but 3 really good fights. But then, well, how can you know, get all those people in to pay this money for 3 small fights? So now you got to do more fights, and now you get all these issues, right? And so, you know, it's funny. We were talking about one thing earlier, how you kind of have to be a father figure to a lot of these fighters, kind of help corral them, tell them, hey, this time, this. Because I remember the first fight, you know, I'm in the car with this guy and all these guys are calling, hey, I was supposed to do blood work. I didn't know that. You know, like I was supposed to talk to a doctor. Medicals. Like, it was literally like every little thing where these guys were like, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, you know? And I was like, well, okay, this makes sense. A lot of these guys, this is their first fight. You know, a lot of them, they don't have guys in their corner that are experienced. So they're literally just trying to figure it out. And it's like, guys, you've had months to get this done and you waited to the last second. And now sometimes I do wonder, maybe there was a reason for that. Maybe, okay, I had other things going on in my life and I didn't set it up, or I thought it would go a lot quicker than it did. But do you find that that's the case, that most of these guys coming into it don't have any idea really like the business aspects of the fight game?
I think as the sport grows, people are starting. There's bigger teams. There's teams everywhere. Like, I can't imagine that must have been a headache. I mean, not only you're probably
the day of blood test,
you're getting a phone call from the fighter, or maybe his girlfriend that's his manager, or the team, and it's an old school boxing coach that's just hard to deal with. Like, I couldn't even imagine. Each fighter probably has 3 people you have to deal with, or they don't have anyone to deal with. They don't even have a cell phone. It's just like, how do I get in contact with this kid to make sure that he has his eye work done?
It's like 6 things, MRI, like 2 separate MRIs, and it was a nightmare. But we had our Robbie, Robbie, she's I think
Robbie Shakespeare.
Yes, Robbie. She for free took over all the medicals. And she was on it. She was
crazy
awesome.
good at that
Asked
job.
for tickets. That was it. So there's so many people behind the scenes that really love the MMA community. And we had such a cool team, and that made it a lot easier. I would have, that was really hard. But just tickets, concessions, and the 50 text messages I would get, hey, I need this, or I need that. Or so towards the end, I would just hide in the back.
How many shows did you guys have?
19.
19 total.
So it probably would have stopped at
COVID.
show 2. It probably would have stopped at show 2 if you didn't have as much help as you guys did.
For sure. It would have stopped at show 1. Show 1 was kind of brutal. I don't know how much you've heard or saw, but we asked them, hey, you guys have a sound system here, right? And they said, yeah, no problem. And we get there, and they didn't really have much of a sound system. They literally had like a couple old speakers and a microphone that would keep going. Like, it was the worst, right? So at one point, they literally taped 2 microphones together.
True story.
Right? So I'm in there with 2 different microphones because one would short out, then the other one would kick in, like that kind of crap. And there is one point where I'm announcing a fighter, and it just keeps dying on me. I literally had to put the mic down and just say, everybody, let's make some noise. Like, I'm literally yelling, and someone tells me that, like, I've never seen that before. And I'm like, yeah, well, new things. We had the lights on the whole time, you know? And I said that later. I'm like, normally we got to turn the house lights down, right? And have the lights on the cage. We didn't have the right lighting people yet. Like, it was really like, we kind of failed. But then so many people kept coming up to saying, you guys were great. Ever. This was one of the best shows ever. Like, really? Like, I almost wasn't in the cage early enough to call somebody because I had to go pee, and there was only like one, porta potty back there, and all the fighters were in it, like all these things that like moving parts that like, we had no idea we were doing. So we got really fortunate. Like, one of my other favorite stories is, I'm announcing Max Griffin, right? This is the final fight of the night. And I love, like, Max Payne Griffin's one of my favorite names to yell. I just, Payne. I love giving it, right? As I announce him that he's coming out, I give it my all, and I go black for a second. Like, I literally was about to pass out. Like, I guess I had expelled all the oxygen out of my whole body, and I almost passed out in the ring. And,
that would have been great.
And he always says that. He's like, why didn't you let it happen? That would have been the best. We would have had like a viral video of like this announcer who passes out in the ring. And I'm like, I don't know that would have worked out as well, but actually probably would have. And then everyone would have just been waiting for me to pass out again, something like that. Or, being ready to grab me with pillows or something like that. But yeah, like I said, there were a lot of things that, I've always talked about like, working in restaurants too. It's like you're a duck, right? When you see a duck on the water, it looks like it's going so smoothly. But if you look under the water, those feet are flapping around like crazy, right?
Very accurate.
Like, that's kind of what it was putting on a show there. That's how it feels doing most jobs, is that there's all these moving parts, but then most people don't see those moving parts. They only see this show. And so I realized, like, okay, so like, it doesn't matter that we didn't really have our stuff together. People still enjoyed it, And
we were really hard on ourselves. We're like, this has to be perfect. But I mean, we look at that fight, WFC 1, we had Andre Feely. He almost lost. He fought this beast named Vayman Dennis, little boxer guy.
Tough guy.
He gave him a run for his money, but Feely wins it. He looks like he's 12 with like gauges. Just doesn't look. He looks like the boy Feely before he developed the muscles and all that. And then we had Alex Perez. I don't know if you know.
He's in the UFC.
He fought for the title and he lost.
Yeah.
He lost on our card. Max was on there, but it's crazy to look back and be like, wow, like we have it on DVD and we've watched it a few times. But Yeah, it was a fun experience. But just being there and seeing all these big name guys, you have, who's the Diaz brothers are in there, Rampage, and all these people. I'm like, man, like I can't believe we did this, or they're here to see our show.
Yeah.
It was wild. Like, and then towards the end, we're on pay-per-view. We brought on Jeremy Luchow. I don't know your relationship. There's always feuding going on, but Jeremy was part of Iridium, and we got the sickest fighters towards the end.
Yeah.
And everyone had he's management, but everyone's tied in somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Luchow got us. I'll never forget. Josh Emmett was 11-0 at the time. He got us Christian Giagos, who just came out of the UFC, but had like 2 really bad decisions where he should have won.
Amazing fight.
Yeah, and I'm looking there, and I'm like,
amazing fight.
I'm like, this shouldn't be on our. Like, this is so cool. Like, why is this on our? This is like
He just won his last.
Yeah, he's back
fight.
in there. Yeah,
he just won his last fight. Yeah,
what a crazy fight! But what everyone didn't know, there was humidity inside that place, and there's a huge bubble.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
There's a huge bubble in the cage, and the commission is saying, we're going to stop the fight. We're not going to let this fight happen. So I call my cage guy, Tim Stell, and I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on? He's like, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine.
Yeah.
We have a giant bubble. There's a giant, probably like a 3-foot, 5-foot bubble in the cage. So I'm freaking out because this is that's probably our best fight. That and then the Mitchell Max fight.
Yeah.
But there's all these things, like he talks about the duck. Like everyone's like, that's the greatest fight. I'm like, no, I was freaking out, having anxiety attacks. They're about to pull the plug.
The greatest fight that almost never happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy too. Didn't Mitchell Max happen right after that?
Yeah,
that's the same night. Like that whole card was just unbelievable. But I do think the Emmett Yagos fight was one of those where I was like, wow, we've kind of taken the next step to this level where these kinds of fights can happen, which was amazing. And that was one of the ones where I'm on the edge of my seat the whole time because that was a battle.
And we're sitting there with all the guys I grew up with, right? We're all from San Mateo. We went to elementary school, and I'm like, holy shit! Like we're a bunch of, like, people don't know, behind the stage we're playing grab ass, and he's like double fisting Skittles on the side, like we know each other since like little kids, and we
did it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just like, I can't believe like these idiots put this together, and myself included. Like we put on this, we had like screens and lights, and it's such a contrast from the first fight where he's has masking tape with, 2 microphones together. But it was fun. But enough about us. What was it? Did you ever go in the cage and look over? You fought Barbosa.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's a beast.
Yeah,
that is really scary.
Yeah.
Would you ever go in after, you're there 5 fights, you get in the WC, UFC. Did you feel scared every time you went in the cage, or was there one time where like, holy crap, this guy's a beast? Or is it just that competitive?
Towards the end, I think that that adrenaline, like, I don't want to say, the nervousness, I hate to use the word scared, but that's the way you feel until you understand and recognize that it's just nerves.
Yeah.
It's just nerves. Towards the end of my career, when I started to lose fights a lot, I kind of lost that. And that's in my last fight, I fought Nick Lentz, and then just like warming up in the back, the whole fight week, the whole camp. And I'm just like, man, it's just not fun for me anymore.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
I'm over it.
It's just not it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, getting up for practice was just, fuck, I got to go to practice.
Yeah.
It was before. I was just always excited to be there, always, ready to learn. And then just towards the end, it just stopped being fun for me. And then that's when I knew I'm completely done. The Barbosa fight was a fun fight for me. We got fight of the night.
That was a great fight. I was there for that. It was cool.
It was really cool.
It's a battle.
I think it was the last fight at Arco too. So a little bit of history there. And going into the fight, you just see his highlight knockout reel of Terry Edom, and that's just kind of just, in the backstage, just like, keep your hands up.
Yeah, watch that kick. It's coming.
And being out there, like, even to this day, he's probably one of the fastest fighters at that point in time that I've ever been in the cage with. So I was just, there's a lot of doubt on my part because of that stuff, kind of stuff. And the mind plays a lot of tricks on you, the mind games, and something that I didn't have enough experience. Although I was competing my whole life, the fighting is completely different than wrestling, but the mind plays tricks on you, and just like, man, are you sure you want to do this? And then always when the cage shut and then the Bruce Buffer leaves, you're just like, all right,
you're good to go.
Let's fucking go. I mean, it's you or me, just kind of like how Philly says, my family's here. You're not going to fucking beat me up in front of my family.
Take my money.
It's just not going to happen. So it's really weird just how the mind plays tricks on you, you know, just like anything in business, you know, you kind of get a little bit of anxiety going into big deals all the time. And I still experience it, you know, in my own business and with my kids, you know, it's just something that I've recognized a lot more. And I think just because my career went so fast, I just never was able to sit back and understand exactly what I was experiencing. And just nerves, you know, and everyone gets it. Doesn't matter what your profession is.
And then once you went WC to UFC, what was that jump like? Because WC was going off. It was.
I mean, I fought killers my whole career.
Yeah,
I mean,
kind of the same competition, but just a bigger stage, right?
The only thing that was different, to be honest with you, is the color of the gloves.
Really?
The color of the gloves. We went from blue to black because the reason why I say that is the people that were running the WEC shows were the same people who were in the UFC shows. So when I went to Fight Week, I was already comfortable. I had 8 fights in the WC. I get to the UFC and everyone's like, Danny, everyone's like friendly. It's so it wasn't that bad, and it wasn't. I mean, I fought Joe Daddy Stevens, and he had fought for the title, and he was kind of a legend in my eyes when I took the fight. And I would say 5, maybe 5 of the 6 of the 22 fights I had with the organization with Zuffa were on short notice, less than 4 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And, you know, my fight to get in there, they were basically, they just bought it. They're transferring everyone over to the WEC. You got to win this fight, or, you know, you got to start all over. So you win this fight, you get a contract with the WEC.
No pressure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was able to win that fight with a knockout. And then my first fight, I believe it was 3.5 weeks notice against Joe Daddy Stevens in Louisville. And it worked out well for me. And it was good. I was kind of took a little bit of a break and like, you know, I finally made it and had a little bit more money. Yeah. Not a lot.
But just enough to breathe a little bit.
Yeah. Just to breathe and to go on vacation and just to kind of sit back and, you know, just relish it a little bit and then just keep fighting.
Like when we got on, when we were throwing fights, Irvin, Scott Smith, Billy Miles, I don't know if you remember those guys. Of course, Irvin. But those were the guys. Those were the studs. And Uriah was kind of like, no one knew about Uriah. They didn't care because he was smaller weight. And Irvin was just flying kneeing people. And he was a beast, like 3% body fat. Yeah. I played football in college with him. He was a Pacific. He was a linebacker.
I didn't even know
he played like a little bit. And then he had some issues and, you know, and then next thing I know, I'm watching UFC and he's on there, but his head is massive. You know, he looks like a helmet already. So imagine his head with a helmet on it. Like during spring ball, I've never been so scared because he's fast. He could have been the NFL. There was some, I don't know what happened, but it was like over a girl or something happened. I mean, he was 22, you know, juiced up, ready to go. But what an athlete that guy was. So he got me into it. He came into my nutrition store and he's like, all right, you know, you got to do something, you know, Gladiator Challenge, dude. It's, you know, he had words for it, you know, like guys are, you know, fighting people that are setting up the cage. But Irvin was the man. Like he was top of the totem pole and Uriah was kind of in the back. And now it's crazy to think that across the street here, it's UFC Gym, Uriah Faber, and James Irvin's the head trainer.
Yeah.
It's funny how that worked out. But yeah, James Irvin, what a stud athlete. He was the one of the pioneers of the UFC. But
probably had the center's helmet on.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
dude, he was
yeah.
so scary. He was like 235, 240 inside linebacker. He's tall. He's like 6'1", 6'2", nasty. Like, he's a great guy. He's kind of, his demeanor where he's serious, but if you talk to him, he's still pretty serious. You lighten up a little bit. He's very stern. Like, he's like, how come you haven't come over and seen me? And I'm like, dude, I feel this guy's, he's right across the street, and I've seen him a few times, and he's like, dude, what? Like, I'm like kind of a little nervous a little bit. I'm like, are you going to like choke me out or something?
Right. He's pretty intense.
But it's funny, that dynamic, right? That Uriah was just trying to scrape, and now Uriah's, a millionaire and Hall of Famer. And Irvin's working at Uriah Faber's UFC gym, and Irvin's killing it. Like, he's the number one trainer, and he's doing well. It's not like it's just the dynamic's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And but he's crushing it. Like, I tell everyone, you have one of the greatest strikers of all time right here. You can go train with him, but I guess it's like one of the number one grossing gyms, and he's just crushing it. But yeah, the dynamic's crazy. It's not James Irvin's UFC gym. It's Uriah Faber's, which when I came up it was the exact opposite.
Right.
It was the WC guys kind of, like kind of trying to get the notoriety, but Irvin, he was the man.
Yeah.
The flying knee helped out a lot too.
I think for Uriah, he's just so well spoken. He has the look. He did so much for me personally, but he did so much for the lower weight class fighters. Without him, I doubt they would have had a 45, 35, 25. Yeah. He just made it happen, and one thing that I really admire about him is just his self-belief. Like, he thinks it's always going to work
good.
out.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that, I try to take from him. But he's just like, yeah, man, it'll work.
You're fine.
Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And, there's just something to be said about always being positive.
Yeah.
It's something that I try to take away from him. Something I try to instill in my two children. It's just kind of be positive.
Yeah, you're a new dad, right? They're both young.
4 and 2.
4 and 2, yeah, and then you have the studio, right? That you opened up. How many locations? You have 2 locations now?
Well, we shut one down.
COVID. Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily the COVID thing. It's just we were just in a really bad location in terms of foot traffic, and it just didn't make sense to have to do payroll. For just one location that wasn't really profiting as much as I'd like it.
And what do you guys? It's a Pilates studio, right? But do you do what do you do there? What's the name of it so our listeners can go check it out?
Well, P2O Hot Pilates and Fitness
in Sacramento.
P and 20th. And
P2O. That's
there you go. I see what you did there. Not that many hits in the head,
right?
Well, it's just because we didn't have a name for it.
Right. That's a perfect name. Though. I was like, oh, it's like H2O, but then you're like, P and 20th. I'm like, okay.
And we just had this past Saturday. We just had our 10-year anniversary.
Wow, that's impressive for a business.
Because when we first opened, it's just like, when you get to 2 years profit, you're out of the clear. And then it started to shift to 5 years profit and you're out of the clear. And now I've reached both those benchmarks, and so many things have happened with that studio. It's one, probably besides my kids, of course, it's one of the best things I've ever done.
It's your baby. Yeah. Do you guys do yoga?
We do hot yoga.
I just started doing that.
Yeah. You gotta try it. You gotta try it. We have, we just expanded. With that, the same thing. I opened it when I was fighting, and with my best friend, and she basically took the reins. I just wrote a check, and she made everything happen from the colors.
That's the best, best partner ever.
Yeah, to everything, and it's changed so many lives, and we've been through a lot of hardships. I went through a big business deal, and I had. I had these guys in nice suits taking me to dinner, taking me to the Kings game. We're in the Lexus Lounge drinking alcohol, and then
last call.
I kind of got burnt. I got burned really bad for a lot of my my personal savings that I made through fighting.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we were only 3,200 square feet, and we're killing it. I mean, we're selling out every class, so we just needed to expand. around the corner, the oldest commercial building in Sacramento. It's called the Midtown Building on 21st. They were looking for a location. I was like, this is perfect. We're not going to lose any members because of location.
Yeah,
It's
so
right
close.
around the corner.
Yeah.
There's parking. It's 3 times the size.
Mhm.
So we wanted to do it. So had plans to do it. Paid $20,000 and an architect fees, and just kind of laid out the whole place. And it was just kind of my dream studio.
Yeah.
Because right now, when you hear hot Pilates or hot yoga, you think feminine. So no guy's gonna want to go in there. It's like, that's a girl's gym.
Yeah.
So I felt like,
or the opposite.
yeah, that's true.
I was going to say that's the gym I do want to go to, right? Okay, it's nothing but women here. Okay, why not? That's don't have a bunch of meatheads bumping into me.
So we had the plans on beautiful plans.
Yeah.
Half to the left was going to be masculine, so
Weights and
cardio equipment. And to the opposite side would be our hot room, our hot yoga room, hot Pilates room, sauna, full everything, massage rooms,
the whole bit.
And so put the deposit down. He was like, the UFC gym is going to buy this. You got to really get on it. And I just had so much pressure, and so young in my business mind, I just really didn't do my due diligence, and all this pressure and all these guys in, what do they say, wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm into it about almost 40 grand, and then we go to break ground, and there's asbestos through the whole building.
Oh, of course.
And they didn't disclose that. They had to know this. And I was just, my eye was on the prize. I didn't really sit back and kind of.
And your eye is just like, it'll be fine.
No, he was actually kind of coaching me through, and he was like, to be honest with you, man, I don't think the UFC gym is going to open there. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think so.
Oh, wow. If your eye says that, then you're like, maybe that's looking.
Yeah. He's like, we got a bunch of people trying to get in the spot. We need to pull. We need to get this going, or else you're going to lose the spot. And unfortunately, just a lack of experience. And we signed the contract, and so then they can't do anything because of asbestos. And I didn't really know how bad that stuff is, but we talked to a company, and they said it was going to be anywhere from 100 to 150K to remove it, because they have to take it 2 hours away. It's got to go to a special dump site. They have to have all this hazmat suits, all the thing. And I was just like, well, I can't afford that. And we didn't have any investors, and we didn't have anyone. I just wanted to do it myself first and foremost. And so I get a lawyer, and each month, it's $8,000.
Oh, geez, like a retainer.
They wanted to go over the case. The following month, we had to do this. We had to do this paperwork, all this, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at, after everything's said and done, I'm getting charged $75 a text message, $100 an email. And it just started to add up. And I'm trying to fight this as best as I can. And finally, I ended up firing that lawyer. Because he was just
milking you.
Just milking.
Just milking. Yeah, they're the worst. They're either the best or the worst.
Yeah.
Mostly the worst.
And so I hired another lawyer. He wanted to retain her fee to go over the case and everything that's going on. And finally, we settled out of the court for $20,000, and that was a huge hit to me, because I didn't make that much money. I only got one bonus in my fight career, and with my fights, I was up and down. So I would get a win and a bonus, a show money, bonus check, fight, a win money, and it didn't happen that much. So I had a bunch of money that I was sitting on, but just every month it was just gone.
Jeez.
So that was a huge learning experience. And I talked to some of the mentors I have now, and he's like, hey, we just look at it on the bright side. He's like, you just got a business degree from Harvard. And I'm just like,
it could have been a $2-3 million deal down the line, but it's frustrating. So you're back in that same building, right? Crushing it.
So we're back in that building. Then COVID hits. And I'm just like at the door, I have to shut the doors. And I'm just like, man, I wanted to stay open, but in the area we're in, a lot of our members work at the Capitol, so it's just like I can't do this. Even after 3 months of COVID, they opened the doors, they're still wearing masks to work out.
Dude, imagine in a 100-degree room. What's your rooms go up to?
Jeez.
Well, we keep it at 98, but depending on if you're in a full room, it gets a lot harder than 98.
And that's the misconception of, it's called vinyasa flow, right? Is that correct?
Well, we offer that also. Yeah.
And that is, so first of all, I'm 235, right? 6'4", 235. Everyone is female. There's a couple dudes in there, but they're, half my size. My girlfriend goes in there with me. She picks it up, but she's, half my size, right? And everyone's half my size doing all these crazy things. But there is, when they say it's only for girls, or that is a misconception, because I went in there, my back's all messed up. I can't really run or sprint, or I did weights and didn't stretch or anything for 20 years and just put on as much weight as I could. It's so dumb, but you didn't know anything. Yeah. I go in there, it's life-changing. It really is. The stretching, the control, like there's a couple guys in there, they're ripped. They are shredded. And I'm like, dude, from yoga? And I look around and everyone's in good shape. It is amazing for your body.
Well, I'd like to invite you, your girlfriend, all of you guys to come take.
I want to see Tim.
I definitely was like, we got to make this happen after this podcast.
Hot Pilates is
so hard.
Hot Pilates is hot yoga on steroids.
Yeah. So do you do weights with your?
We have classes that we kind of created called kettle Pilates. So there's a kettlebell in there.
And
do a little bit of movements, not crazy movements, because of course everyone's sweaty. So the last thing I need to do is someone drop a kettlebell on someone, but
slipping all over the place.
Hot Pilates is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah,
and how I got the idea is we were coaching the first Uri's Ultimate. The Ultimate Fighter, the longest season ever against Dominic Cruz. It was the live season, and we met some chicks out there, because obviously we weren't fighting, so we were going out every
doing
night.
your thing.
It was awesome. We show up to practice like hungover. It's like, this is what we're gonna do. We met some chicks, and they were just like, you fighters think you're so tough. Why don't you come take these hot Pilates? And we all of the guys had done hot yoga before.
Yeah.
So we were like, that's no problem. This is gonna be our easy. This is gonna be our in with the chicks.
Yeah.
We go in there, and I'm just looking around, and all these girls are doing push-ups, they're doing squats, they're doing burpees, and they're just crushing it. And I'm like looking around, and like I'm trying to find a clock to see how much time has gone by.
And you're hungover, and you're
just hating life. And still to this day, it's one of the hardest workouts that you'll do in 60 minutes. But it's so beneficial for you.
Yeah.
I mean, in the heat, you're stretching. Pilates, they kind of focus on the smaller muscles that are around the bigger muscles.
Yeah.
So it's all connected, and it just makes you stronger. Your mobility, so you start to gain more mobility, and it's really good for people that are coming out of injuries.
Yeah. That's why I did it. I was
mobility.
back surgery, and I can't lift weights. I can't run, and it drives me crazy, because I was just like, don't be a pussy, just do it. I think I don't know. It was you. I think it was on social media talking about people that are overweight. Just go run. Or you said something like that, and I'm the same way. My girlfriend's making fun of me. I'm up there in the treadmill. My back's hurting. I'm like, don't be a pussy. I'm talking to myself.
Right.
Like, don't be a pussy. Like, come on. Like, talking to myself till I have back surgery. I got to that point. That's the only thing I can do. But I'm like, I'll stretch. It'll be fine. I'll get a good sweat. We got into the driveway. She had to carry me out of the car. I was exhausted. I was covered in sweat,
cramping up probably.
Yeah, but everyone thinks it's a female type thing. It's not. It's
just light stretching. What are you talking about? There's nothing to it.
So if anyone's listening, you're in the Sacramento area, go check that out. But it's not a relaxing type deal, but when you get out, you feel great.
We have a couple different styles of yoga also. So one of my favorite classes that we offer is the yin candlelit
Yeah, I've done that. That's cool.
And that's
yeah.
that's more slow paced.
But that's even hard for me.
Well, I mean, if you're not flexible and you don't have the mobility, then it can be challenging.
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
definitely. But for me, it's kind of how I like to end the week after a hard week of training with the guys.
Mhm.
Either I'm lifting or I'm not lifting. Just everyday life. It's just to kind of go out there and the one thing that people don't really think about it is the mindfulness that you get out of it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Mental.
yeah. I mean, if you're really focused in your breathing, you kind of get lost in it. And then just at the end, it's just, I mean, we're cell phones, computers, everything.
Yeah.
You know, you're just kind of, your mind's running all over the place. And sometimes when I start to get really stressed out, I understand, like, dude, your mind is going a million miles a minute.
Yeah.
And it's time to kind of shut it down and to try to get some mindfulness and to relax a little bit. And then when I leave, I just can't wait to get a good night's sleep and then start the week off. So that's one of my favorite things to do at the studio on Sundays. But yeah, the studio's been great. We've changed so many lives. After that happened, COVID hit, and then I wasn't going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to give up. So we went virtual as soon as they shut the doors down. So I was getting, 40 to 50 people on a Zoom class, and I was teaching it in my garage. And we were able to keep about 65% of our members kind of stuck with us because they were stuck at home too. And,
But do you still do that now?
We do.
So that's the cool thing with COVID. It made, like, so many people are hesitant to do anything, right? They're just, when something like that happens, you have no choice. You're like, we got to figure this out now. And I feel like I had a bunch of friends. We have a bunch of friends in personal training, and they're like, oh shit, like, what are we going to do? But now I'm finding out that they've expanded their business even more because now they're back in the gym, and now they have all these mobile clients. So it's really been beneficial. We always joke about COVID.
Bring it back, baby.
Yeah, we loved COVID.
It was great.
Was awesome.
It was the best,
dude.
Minus people
C19.
that got sick.
Let's do it.
This is so funny because I was just talking about this with a buddy. He's like, remember when we had COVID and you can get up and make a cocktail at 9 a.m.
Yep.
Like you didn't have to do anything and you're just hanging out. Like you got to spend more time with your family. And
dogs loved it.
Yeah. You're really enjoying yourself. And just COVID, that whole thing was just. And I look back at it, and I mean, the one thing that I really miss and enjoyed is just being at home, and just kind of hanging
relax.
out.
And I ended up, I have asthma. I had COVID pneumonia in the hospital. Like, they almost had to put what was it? Like
anal probe?
No, that was just you and I. But
no,
they almost had to put a thing in my lung, like when you had to be awake. So I had water in my lung, just crazy. And even that, and obviously people that lost their lives, of course, we don't want to get canceled already. But
right, no,
overall,
I don't want to discredit any of that.
But other than that, dude, traveling was the best. I went to Mexico. I got the Southwest seat. No one's in the middle. I launched a CBD company, so everyone's wigging out. Like, I need stuff for anxiety. I got you. Like, it was.
I did a round trip flight to Hawaii for like $120. It was crazy. No one was on that flight. It was
I'm ready for the next one.
It was awesome, but as you said, like my fiance, she's a nurse, so
there's some
just like
stuff.
this is ridiculous, and she's like, no, it's really serious. It's really serious, and just because you're healthy, and I got vaccinated. I still got COVID.
Me too. I had twice.
Yeah. Well, I only got it once, and it didn't really affect me as. I mean, the crazy thing about it and the scary thing about it is you never know how it's going to affect.
Everyone
you.
was different.
I called it the roll of the dice disease. You don't know if you're going to get a 1 or a 6. Like, am I just going to have a light cough, or am I really going to need to have like an ambulance take me somewhere because I'm screwed? Like,
it was a scary time. I mean, you go to the grocery store, you have a mask on, you bring your groceries, and you're cleaning them off in the garage before you bring it in. It's just a really wild time, but I do miss it a little bit just because I got to spend more time.
I miss it a lot.
I got to spend more time with the family.
I think it's something that we can learn from that. Maybe it's good to just have like a 1 week that we could, say, hey, it's COVID week. Like we're gonna have a day where we say, hey, to all the people that passed away, thank you for your sacrifice, all that kind of stuff. But like literally, it would just be, let's get back to what we did during COVID times. A month?
Yeah.
Let's do a year. But like, honestly, it was one of those things that I remember. We always used to talk about, hey, remember when we were kids, we used to ride our bikes everywhere. I never saw that. Then all of a sudden COVID hit. I saw kids riding their bikes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of neighbors that all of a sudden became a lot more friendly because who else are we going to talk with, you know? So
Yeah.
we're going to set up chairs on our lawn and have our cocktails at 9 a.m. Like, why the hell not, you know? But yeah, like for me, I remember the first night that it struck when they're like, okay, I don't have work tomorrow or probably for the next month. So, hey, I want to get caught up on that show Ozark. I'd never seen that before. And so I started
Awesome
watching
show.
Ozark, right?
Yeah.
I started watching it about 10 at night thinking I'll just get a couple episodes in. Right now I'm like 6 episodes deep in that first season. I'm like, what the hell? Oh, it's 4 a.m, but it doesn't matter. I have nowhere to go tomorrow, you know? And so I cut that off. I literally went the next day and got up to season 2, season 3. Like I got to binge on this show that I would not have been able to if otherwise. Now I was sick like he was too. Like we were just coughing our asses off. It sucked. It wasn't like the best, you know, it wasn't the best, you know, but like I say, there was something about that.
Well, there's
Wow,
always
just
positives and negatives, right?
It's. I think it did really, for me, make me realize how many things I take for granted. How many things that I assume will always be around that aren't around. I work in a restaurant, right? And one of the reasons I work in restaurants is people always have to eat. I assume that's a business that'll never not be around. And then all of a sudden this hits, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a business that's that necessary anymore, you know? And so, but like going to the movies was the thing, you know, going to the gym, doing all these other things that you can't do. And it's like, well, I want to do this, but you know,
I hadn't been to a movie theater since I just went to see a movie with my kids, the Super Mario Brothers movie. But
Not
other
bad
than
movie.
that, I
that was
enjoyed it.
great.
I liked it a lot.
So fun.
I liked it a lot. But yeah, for the 2 years or 3 years that COVID hit, I hadn't been to a movie, and that was like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of good things came out of it, and I mean, I just kind of want to get off of the COVID thing, but it really scared people into getting healthy, and that's like one of the big benefits. A lot of people, for me, owning a fitness studio, like that helped out a lot. We COVID hit, we did the Zoom classes, and then I turned my back parking lot, laid some turf down, and then we started holding classes outside.
Yeah.
So we just kind of just adapted to everything.
And some people probably like that, like the outdoor, like when you're going to bring that
fresh
back.
air is great. Yeah.
I get that a lot. But with that happened, now we still keep the virtual classes because now we have members that live in other states.
Yeah. Now you got 2 businesses.
Yeah. I mean,
so it helped out.
One doesn't do that. But,
but I mean, it's more than it's extra business.
Yeah.
I do want to get back to something you were talking about with, you know, the Pilates and yoga, talking about, you know, the mindfulness aspect of it, you know, and I haven't done either extensively, but I did used to train in karate for a long time. And part of the
probably didn't know that he's a brown belt. Can you believe that?
My first job ever was a karate instructor as a 16-year-old. So, yeah, that was crazy. But that was one of those things that we always had a meditation. I do believe there was one at the beginning of class and one at the end of class where you would just sit down in your stance and just try to block everything out. And I do find that that's something that I took with me that, you know, I was one of those people, I couldn't block things out. You know, I took everything to heart, and being able to do that is a big thing. Because like you say, we have all these things that are coming at us now. Being able to just sit down and focus your breath, think about nothing is an amazing skill that I don't think a lot of people understand. Like it just makes you feel so much better about the things you're doing, and you can really think about that. So I think that's fantastic. Was that something that drew you to Pilates and yoga in the first place? Was that mindfulness aspect? No,
no, not at all. I just at the time, I just knew that we didn't have any hot Pilates studios in Sacramento. We had Zuda at the time, and it was crushing it.
Yeah.
And I just, for financial reasons, I was like, I could make a lot of money doing this.
Interesting.
And the best decision I made, I mean, financially, but I mean, the studio's changed so many lives. We were working really close with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I have 5 Wish kids, and
that's awesome.
Just being able to do stuff like that. And it's kind of changed just my outlook on life in terms of what's really important. And it's just been an amazing ride. And 10 years, I put myself we put ourselves in a position to buy my first piece of commercial property. So, you know, hopefully, you know, fingers crossed that goes down before the end of the year. So we're already talking with lenders. So
That's the best decision. So I don't know if you know my background with supplements. I used to own supplement stores. So I was just saying, I had my baby store, and then we franchised out. And man, if I could go back, that's the main. Well, you look at the McDonald's franchise. You ever watch that movie?
The Founder.
Yeah, where they made
Great
all their
movie.
money was they bought all the real estate, and then they ran it back to the franchisees, and that's where they made all their money. Was that for me? It's like you're paying rent I had 16 stores and paying rent over and over, and I'm like, if I would have bought 3 places, 4 places,
been paying yourself.
yeah. So that's a really smart move. It's scary because then you're locked in, right? But you 10 years, but you're paying it anyways. That's the best move you can make. I mean, owning real estate, that's it.
That's kind of a new thing. Everyone's just kind of, the classes are selling out the studio, so they're just like, why don't you open another location? And I have all these mentors now. My buddy Owen, he owns one of the biggest, I would say, fish companies in Sacramento called why am I drawing a blank? Sunfish.
Mm-hmm.
So all the restaurants, usually get fish from him. And he was telling me, he was like, I'll probably never own open another store that I don't own the property on.
Yeah.
And that kind of hit me a little bit different. And, now life is a little bit different. So like, I'm kind of leaning towards that and just kind of learn. I mean, I went to a business school. Menlo's a business school, but as I said, I went for wrestling. I wasn't really focusing on studies or focusing on any of that stuff. But, now I'm trying to be the best businessman I can be. And, with the whole COVID thing, we're still on the bottom floor. We're a 2-story building. The owner of the building owned a property management company on top. He outgrew his building. So he outgrew that spot. And he was going to sell the building. Back when we opened, he was like, "Yeah, I would love to sell the building."
Man, imagine that if you would have bought it, but it's just such a risk.
I had the money to do it back then.
Yeah.
And now, now the property's
double.
Yeah. So now it's a more than double. It's like a little under 2 million.
Jeez. Yeah.
But what happened was he was going to sell the building, and I'm just like looking at it. I was like, "You fucking asshole! You told us you were going to sell us the building. Like, let me get my money together. Like, we can definitely do this."
Yeah.
The funny story: the people that were looking at the building saw the location. It was just like, "Oh wait, we've taken classes here."
Oh, it's one of your members.
Yeah, it was way back in the day when we first opened, and they had went upstairs, and I can't remember what their business was, but they were checking it out, and then like I knew they were up there, so I cranked the music up super loud.
Yeah, smart. Banging up there.
Yeah, it was a little older building, so there wasn't too much of a sound barrier, and he was like, "We can't conduct business meetings with the music playing, and we don't want to take the music from. We know how important the music is."
Yeah.
So they backed out of the deal, and the owner is just like scrambling around because he's losing rent every month that's going by.
Every day.
He comes back and he's like, "Hey, why don't we just do a lease option?" And I was like, "You fucking piece of shit." But so we're in the lease option, and so now the upstairs is feminine. Mm-hmm. So we have all our hot classes there. We have infrared panels.
Heat rises.
Mm-hmm.
It's very smart.
Oh, wow.
What's your heat bill like? I'm in that class and I'm like, man, that's got to be insane.
Well, the infrared panels,
gas, right?
The infrared panels are a little bit different.
Okay.
Than, I wish we were in gas, but studies behind the infrared heat is a lot better than anything else. So we went with that. The whole upstairs is redone. Big hot room, full on store, and then downstairs we have a full strength and conditioning area. So fingers crossed, I'll be a commercial owner.
That's awesome.
At the end of the year.
Very cool.
Well,
I want to say one thing that's really genius about having a hot Pilates studio in Sacramento. You could just open the damn windows. Come summertime, you don't have to pump in any sort of heat.
True.
You could save a lot of money on that. But yeah, that is interesting. You kind of went from wrestling to this other sort of thing. But everything I've been hearing about is really that wrestling was sort of early on in your life, that it was a big thing. Now I don't know if you were like me. My first introduction to wrestling was pro wrestling, the WWF stuff, the body slams and suplexes and things like that. And I first started seeing that and going, oh, that's interesting. And then you see real wrestling and you're like, oh, this is totally different, but similar. Like there's a lot of the same stuff they do, but obviously it's not all for show and things like that. So I'm wondering, like, what was your first like experience like seeing wrestling and seeing real wrestling as well?
Of course, I mean, you can't be an adolescent boy in America if you haven't seen wrestling.
The Hulkster,
the whole, all that stuff was really cool, and I was into that as well. As far as wrestling 100% saved my life. If it wasn't for wrestling, I don't know where I would be. I mean, everyone that I grew up with, I mean, when we moved from San Francisco to Sacramento, I was about 6 years old. We moved to Oak Park. My mom was trying to give us a better life with a yard, and we moved to Oak Park. And it's like she had no idea that that's one of the worst places in Sacramento. Yeah. We were there for a couple of years, just shootings all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, a bunch of times we weren't even able to go to our house because the streets were blocked off. Yeah. That was rough, seeing my mom struggle through that and just crying in the car, like, what are we going to do? Single mom, and just seeing her struggles has kind of always been into me, like instilled in me that you just keep pushing. 2 years later, we moved just to a further part, Fruit Ridge and Stockton, not the best area. I mean, probably really similar. It's just the hood.
Yeah.
And then she did everything she could to give us a better life, and which means I was a latchkey kid the whole time.
Yeah.
And she just worked a ton. So her work ethic was kind of instilled me as a kid. In high school, I went to a school and I kept getting in trouble. I went to a private school and I just kept getting in trouble. Like I wasn't like everyone else. So every day I would get in trouble for getting into fights, and the VP, he was just like, listen, I'm going to call your mom again. And it's probably the third time he called my mom that month. And it was like September or it was like October, early in the month. And my mom really didn't play that. So I was just like, whatever you do, please don't call my mom. I'll do absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, well, you come to wrestling practice. And, all the kids that I was fighting with all had wrestling experience, all from great families, backgrounds where they had specialty coaches on the side. And I just got my ass kicked for 2 straight hours. And after I was done, for some reason or another, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I loved it. And the next day I came back and I just continued to wrestle. And I don't know what it is about it. I mean, looking back, maybe it's just you versus another guy, me, and it's all in my hands because I had played basketball growing up. I mean, shit, I thought I was going to go to the league, and then
we all did back then.
I did too.
I was 5'6". Yeah. I go to my high school, and they played. I played a little bit of organized basketball, but more every day I played basketball at the playground. So I thought it was awesome. I thought it was Allen Iverson for all I knew. Then they started running plays, and I just wasn't tall enough. I just couldn't get it. And the wrestling was just kind of my way to compete and still be in some sort of sport where I'm pushing hard. And it was only up to me. It didn't matter if I was tall or fast or knew the plays or anything. Like it was just me. And I did.
So it saved your life. I mean,
it really did save my life. Because in order to wrestle in any school, you had to have grades.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't care about grades.
So now you got to keep your grades up. Yeah, exactly. Now you have a reason to do it. Yeah.
I mean, there was only one time that I second guessed myself is when they gave me the singlet. I was like, I got to wear that shit. I was like, I don't know if I could do this.
Yeah.
And the first match I had was against a girl.
Course. Yeah.
It just kind of like it's all kind of stacked up for me. It's like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, but I loved it for some reason or another.
Cool.
And just kept pushing. And now everything I have in life is
from wrestling.
Based on that. Yeah.
And out of your fighters now, what's a funny story behind stage? Because I saw when I was fighting, I saw some crazy stuff. I witnessed a lot. I mean, I remember Jamie Har, this was the weigh-ins, but he'd smell like death. You ever, when someone has to cut so much weight, you can literally smell
the pneumonia.
Yeah. But did you, who gets like the nervous? Is there any like people that throw up or like what's the crazy experience you've had with some of your fighters?
Man, there's been so many that it's hard now. They're putting me on the spot. I don't know, but,
or like a memorable one, or
but for myself, I tell myself we had a really. Also, I've been blessed with amazing coaches. Throughout my whole career, some by the book, some quirky, and one of the best coaches I had is Master Tong, the Thai guy that was.
Where is he now?
He's back in Thailand.
Yeah. I haven't seen him for years.
Thai guy that smoked cigarettes.
Oh, he's the best.
He gambled, just like had just sunglasses all the time. No sleeves on his shirt, boots. He was a really good coach.
Beats to his own drum for sure.
Yeah. But it was one scary time. I went to the fight and I getting ready to go get called out and I can't find my mouthpiece.
Oh man.
And I'm just like, and this is like in the big show too. So they're like on TV time, like you got to get ready to go. So I had to they bring me a mouthpiece that they had in the back. And for those reasons, of course. And I had to go microwave water and the water wasn't whole enough. I'm trying to do a boil and bite for a professional fight and it's not working. I'm stressing out. I don't know.
The last thing you want to stress about.
I'm not sure if it was better for me not to stress on the fight, more preoccupied on the mouthpiece.
Right.
But I had to just boil and bite mouthpiece. It's like 99 cents. And I won the fight. Another time, it was all Master Tom stuff. Another time I'm going, they took too long to wrap my hands. I'm going to put my hands in the WC glove and I'm going down and then the whole glove rips. So the handle rips and I'm just like, I'm freaking out. And another thing, I'm got to be out there in 5 minutes. They run back. They're trying to find that they bring me a large glove. So I have a medium glove and a large glove in the fight.
You won though, right?
That fight didn't go as well.
Well, that's why. It's because of that.
I should blame it on that.
Fiddler crabs are not the best fighters. There's a reason why. You don't have just one club and one little one here. But that's.
But do you have any guys that are?
Well, another one. This other one. We're getting ready to go. We're downstairs. Joseph Benavidez was I believe he was on the card. I don't know. Back then, Uriah had so much pull that we'd have all our guys in the backstage, whether they're licensed or not. I'm getting ready to warm up, and I'm warming up, and everyone's like, "Where the hell's Master Tong?" And we can't find him anywhere.
Smoking a cigarette, right?
Can't find him anywhere. And then some guys I saw Master Tong. He was on the poker table last night, and he's all, funny enough, I went to go get breakfast. He was still on the poker table.
Oh wow!
And I'm just like, I'm so pissed off because every fight's your biggest fight. And I have my personal trainer, my head trainer is not there to warm me up, hold mitts for me. And I'm just like, fuck, all right, you got to fight. So we're getting out there to walk, and you're in the tunnel, and they have the camera, and they're like, 5, 4, getting ready to go. I'm just like bouncing around, and then he pulls up right.
It's like, what's up?
I'm like, you motherfucker, where have you been?
So I was on a heater.
And he's like, hey, shh, go fight. Right, and I'm just like, you motherfucker. But those are some of the funny things that happened to me in my career. And there's some other stuff with some of the fighters, but because I'm such an experienced coach, a lot of those stuffs don't happen. I'm like, you cup mouthpiece, ready to go. All right, let's go down.
But do you ever have a guy that's like so confident or like something that sticks out that it's like no big deal? Like they've been there and it's you ever get anyone like that?
Well, I mean, Feely, he's like,
that's who I was.
He's pretty relaxed.
He's relaxed when it's game time, but fight week, it's like I share a room with him and we're like watching cartoons, and he's like,
he's an interesting guy, right?
He's telling me about comic books, and he's fucking, he's talking about motorcycles and what he's going to buy with his check, and I'm just like, all right. Yeah.
He's coming on Thursday.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
But
you guys
smart.
won't be able to get any words in because he likes to talk a lot. So be prepared.
But he is so smart.
He's very intelligent.
I always tell everyone he's the smartest uneducated guy I've ever met.
Yeah,
he truly is. He does a lot of reading, and he's into a lot of different things that fighters you would never think that. Think that.
So another one of my favorite stories from our first foray. I'm announcing this fight, and I'm going around. I got to find out these guys' information, their name, their record. I just need to make sure it's okay, right? And I'm looking around, and these guys are cutting weight, so they're they're not looking like the most presentable, easy to come up to and talk guys. But the first fighter I talked to is Andre Fili. And I'm looking at this guy going, okay, looks kind of tough, kind of raw, whatever. We'll see how this goes. And he was just so articulate and intelligent. And I was just like,
that shouldn't come out of this guy's mouth.
Right. And I'm like, okay, I got to kind of, check my, beliefs, my stereotypes at the door, because I have found that this is mostly the case with most fighters. They are not these mean, terrible people. They're really just athletes who are in a game where they have to put on that mean face more often than not.
I know Andre pretty well, and I know fighters pretty well, and I still have those stereotypes. When Andre came into the gym, he was just a punk kid. Yeah. He had the gauge earrings. His head was shaved, and I think
his mohawk.
He had a mohawk
head tattoo,
and his head tattoo says like "War, Die, War" or something. I'm like, and he had an ankle monitor on. I was like, who the fuck is this kid? Yeah. And now he's not only one of my favorite athletes, but he's like a really cool person. He's like a really close friend to me.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a trip that I go back and start to see all the different changes, all the people, and I've been with him for the majority of his fights. And it's and those ones are tough, when you. And I care about all my fighters, but when the ones like Andre, like if he has a close fight and he loses a fight and we're backstage and just seeing I've been in the ambulance to go to the hospital after a fight, and it's just, and I've been in the ambulance myself, so I put myself in that same position, and he's just like so like
down,
so down, like no, how could this happen? Like no, I can't believe this happened. Like this is not, I'm supposed to be world champion, and it's just kind of trying to be there for him. And then that's when the coaching goes out the door, and I become a brother, a bigger brother. He calls me a bigger brother. So the dynamics in coaching, if you really care about your athletes, it's hard. Like, and that's something that affects me as well. Is I take it home with me.
Yeah.
And my girl's like, hey, what's wrong? It's just like, I don't know, just bummed about the fight, or I'm nervous about the fight, or.
But what about the one I remember is the highs too? Like everyone says about the sport, the highs are high, the lows are low. I will never forget. I was out of the country for something. I was watching it on my phone, and my family has grown, with Andre. Like they're, they know him well, and they feel like, like a part of family.
So when it fights, it's fight for him. Yeah.
And then when I remember that, I think it was your fight where Uriah, you and Afili, was he on that card as well? And he won at Arco. I don't know if it was that card. I'm pretty sure it was, but he got on the stage, he got on the cage, started dancing the Mac Dre, doing the Thiz face.
That was at Golden One.
That was the most euphoric moment I've ever seen on his face. It was awesome, but I think that goes with the territory, right? When it's good, it's good. Yeah. When it's bad, it's bad. So
a new metaphor that I use. I mean, you always hear it's the highest of the highs, and the lowest of the lows. But now it's like you're either going to a wedding or you're going to a funeral.
Yeah.
And that's that. There's nothing more, spot on than that analogy, because when we win, it's awesome. You're talking, you're looking at your phone, and your phone is just like full of text messages.
Way to go, buddy. Good job.
You lose, it's 3
4
people.
or 5.
Your mom.
Sorry you lost, bro.
Yeah. Oh, it's not a big deal. On to the next one. But it's a very lonely and dark time. And anytime any of my athletes lose, I mean, the first thing I do is like, when they win or lose, it's just like, how are your hands? How are your feet? Those are your tools. Those are what you need to. Because if you lose, you're back in the gym and you're working harder. And sometimes the most motivation comes after losses.
Yeah.
So that's what I always ask. And then, after we get home from a trip, because you travel with these guys and you fly home, first thing I want to do is go see my kids. But it's just in my head, like, what could I have done better as a coach to make sure this never happened? If we had the opportunity to fight this kid again that same night, like, what could we have done better? So that's always in my head. And then I just know how it feels to lose. I've lost close fights that I didn't think I should have lost.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah.
And you get half your money. And I really wish 2 things in MMA changed: the judging, or at least we get set in stone, what the judging criteria are.
It's terrible.
That, and I feel like we should go to the boxing to the boxing format where you get flat rate, whether you win or lose. Like I think that would help a lot of fighters. And but I know that the UFC is a business, and I know they're trying to make the most profit, and I understand that. And I don't necessarily hate it. I just think it's unfair because I've always accepted that the UFC is a performance-based sport.
Yeah.
If you win, you're going to get paid. You know, if you get on there and you entertain, your Conor McGregor is the biggest, example of that. You know, I mean, he didn't really do too much more than some of these other fighters did, but his ability outside to promote and to entertain and everything, that's the reason why he's one of the highest paid. He is the high. I mean, he's one of the highest paid athletes in top 10. You know, you're talking about big soccer stars who make the most money, baseball stars, and he's there because he was able to do everything together. And on those nights, he always shows up, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, we talked to Max Griffin was on. Do you coach Max at all a little bit? Or
he comes in and he spars. He does some cross training with him. And
he's got a bunch of he's got a whole army of guys.
Yeah.
But he lost that one in Brazil.
The worst officiating I think I've ever seen.
Who was it again? It was Thiago Alves. I always get it right.
I think it was Thiago Alves.
It's someone else, but it's a Brazilian guy, and it was not even close. Like, right, even close.
I think I remember
in Brazil.
But didn't he get his win bonus?
That was another fight. Dude, he's gotten. I mean, I personally saw 4 or 5. I'm like, man, this guy can't catch a break. Yeah. But the judging. We were just talking about this. I feel. I mean, you would know more than me, but I feel the UFC should train a group. You know, like the MLB has umpires. We have. You ever heard of Ed Montague? He was an umpire for like 35 years, so we're going to get his perspective on it. But he oversees all the umpires.
You guys getting sponsored for this yet?
I hope so. Come on, Celsius. But if the UFC had a group of judges, right, that they trained, that they, you know, these were the cream of the crop. Dana knows who knows their stuff, and then you got to be sanctioned in every state. Get them sanctioned in every state. Have the same group of guys, and if they do shitty, fine them. You know, I don't understand why it hasn't happened yet. I don't understand that. Everyone's like, well, the UFC is going to pick the guy they want. I'm like, not necessarily. Like, it's like the umpires saying, oh, you know, the MLB wants the Dodgers to win, so the umpires are going to favor them.
What people don't understand is the UFC never loses.
Yeah.
Whether it's the guy they want to fight, they want to win. If he loses, the other guy takes his spot.
Yep. Now we get to boost this guy.
All they do is they get all that film reel and they just push it. So they never lose.
So why don't they do that? Like, why don't the UFC step in? Because I know Dana's just, I seen on his face, like, that was bullshit. There's no way he should have won. He gets all angry. Why not, you know, hire 10 of these guys? Train them, go through a school, like the whole bit, and then get them sanctioned in every state.
I have no idea. What I'm guessing is it's probably something to do with each commission that they don't like it some reason or another.
But if they get sanctioned in every,
I have no idea.
They have enough pull.
It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
And you and I aren't like, this is not revolutionary stuff. Like, everyone's thinking it. Like, why?
There's got to be something.
Why hasn't it happened? But
I mean, it's taken hundreds of years for baseball to finally start doing what they're doing. I mean, there were times where guys were calling balls and strikes before the pitch is even thrown. You know what I mean? Like, they're calling a guy out.
Off topic, how do you guys like the shot clock, the pitch clock?
I'm fine with it. I love it because I'll be honest, I hate nothing more than seeing a guy, you know, Nomar Garcia Parra again. Like, it's a pitch, like it's coming. Like, I know there's the whole aspect. Okay, let's get ready, let's go. But the point is, many
batters do it too when they're.
But that's what I'm saying. But
their shoes.
But there were so many guys that were able to get away with not doing it. You know what I mean? There were so many guys that could just go up to the plate and hit that don't need to tie their shoes every time and, you know, check their gloves and tighten. Like,
they got to figure it out. It's like the first year, so there's.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it is making games a little too fast. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, this game's over already. I just got here. It's like the 5th inning, but. I think it's a good thing. I do think that baseball has been one of the few, because baseball didn't change for like 100 years. You know what I mean? And then finally they're like, you know, we could probably do some of these things that these other sports are doing and get better at it. And what they did with their umpires more than anything is they created this thing where they take, you know, the strike zone and they plug it in. you missed that call, you missed that call, you missed that call. You got that call right. I don't see why we can't have some sort of governing body with the UFC.
Or get all the commissions
with
together.
judges. Exactly. But that sort of thing where, like I was saying, one thing you could do is just take a fight, right? And ask someone, okay, what would you score this fight? And then look at what the people actually scored it and see, okay, well, this was way off. Why? Let's ask this person why. Why did you give this person that round? Well, they looked like they dominated the cage. Yeah, but they took 20 shots to the face and this other guy, didn't. And I think that's one of the main things is, like you say, I'm a judge and I'm only looking for hits. I'm a judge and I'm only looking for takedowns. You know what I mean? Like there's all these different things that people are looking for. And I think it could really be easy. It could be very succinct,
well, there's got to be some reason. Like Danny said, they've
incentivized being good at it. That's what I'm saying. So someone who hits a 99% that they got all the things they were supposed to, they get a bonus for that. People that don't, sorry, we're not going to ask you to come back to the next show. I think it's a very easy thing to do, but I do think the main reason, it costs money and it takes time. And what difference will it make? I think very few people don't watch the UFC because the officiating's bad. You know what I mean? There's only a few people that are like,
"Do you think so?"
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, but I'm saying there's only
don't watch because of the
officiating. No, but I'm saying
still want to see somebody.
I'm saying there's like the minimum. Like I stopped watching boxing for part of that because I'm like I'm getting tired of watching boxing because it looks fixed. It looks fixed.
Not even the big fights.
Well, I would eventually, like I'd go watch, but that's what I'm saying. I feel that it only affects very few people, that there's only a few people that might not trust in the sport. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's...
Wait, so you're saying because of the judging, there's people not watching the UFC?
I'm saying there's very few that it would affect.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought you were saying the opposite. I was like, no one cares.
It's very few people that it would affect. That's what I'm saying. There's only a couple of people that might be like, I don't know, it looks fixed to me, so I'm not going to watch it. Because I think that's really it. That's like when I saw that Max fight, I was pissed.
It was so bad.
That's my buddy who I've seen work his butt off. He dominated that fight. There was no metric.
2 black eyes. His opponent.
And not only that, like his
money,
his girl, his kids,
yes,
and half his paycheck
are affected by it.
Yeah.
And that's the terrible thing about
and
that.
And the only reason he lost is because the person who he was fighting was from that country.
Yes.
That was
I just had a fight in Paris. Chris Gonzalez is a prospect.
Bellator guy. Yeah. I know Chris.
So we go out there and we fight the kid, and Chris gets some takedowns. And I fought in London. So I fought overseas, and I understand Andre Feely's next fight's in London also.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, in July. But I fought out there, and I understand how it kind of works. Like when you're in those countries that are heavy into kickboxing and boxing, like their knowledge of grappling isn't very high.
Yeah.
So Chris, he had a really tough fight. The kid kept coming in. He was, and I'm like, dude, it's 1-1 going in the third. This kid, you don't lose this fight, man. You got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
And the kid's like throwing spin kicks, like flashy stuff. The crowd's going. The
not
crowd's
landing though.
I mean, a couple landed, but not anything where he's like wobbled or anything. And he gets a takedown. And he gets some control time, and he loses the fight. And I'm just like, bro, it's a learning lesson. I mean, I tried to tell you as best as I could when I was in the corner. Like we don't know where we're at. You got to fight every round, and that brings me to the things that I think should happen is open scoring. So after each round, exactly what the score is.
I agree.
I think, but I think they don't want that to happen because if a guy is winning
up 2-0, he's just going to coast.
He's going to coast. But I also think that instead of having 3, like, why can't we have 5? Why can't we have 5 judges?
Yeah.
I mean, all 5 can't be. I shouldn't say that, but you never know. But I mean, it's
the more people you bring in,
variable.
Exactly. You take away that one potential. I don't want to name names. Susan Thomas Gitlin. You take away that scorecard, and then all of a sudden you see who the real winner is. So yeah.
But the UFC has so much power with the sanctioning body. Like for California, right? There was, I want to say when we were there was probably like a handful of organizations, right? They get all their money from the UFC. All these sanctioning bodies. UFC has pull, and I just don't understand. There's got to be something, right? Like you said, this isn't new. I'm sure Dana has been like, hey, let's bring on our own team. And then I'm sure there's roadblocks or something that's happened, but it seems like an easy decision, right?
For a sport that's, pretty close to perfect. Like there's one thing that's not making it perfect. I mean, I feel like Dana White's an intelligent guy, and he's a guy that doesn't take any bullshit.
Yeah.
Like if there's a way that
He would have done it.
he would have done it. By now.
I
It
agree
just
with
doesn't
that.
make sense for him to, like when he gets into the press conference, he's like, "This is terrible," and he's upset about it. I mean,
It's his baby.
obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there has to be something.
Well, and then everyone says, like we talked to Max, and it's the non-fighter always says this, and I guarantee it irks you. You shouldn't have left it in the hands of the judges, and they don't understand. And I used to think that way, when I'm like, well, yeah, just knock them out. And people don't realize how hard that is especially on the UFC level. Like, you don't think that you guys aren't trying to knock each other out the whole time. It's just, these are the best athletes in the world, and it's not that easy. It's really hard. It's getting harder.
It's really not. Some of the best jiu-jitsu black belts in the world still have trouble submitting a guy who's a blue belt. It's because it's not the same discipline. You have a guy that's able to punch. You got a guy that's able to do all kinds of different things, or you have guys who don't want to engage at all. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt also. If I'm going against a guy that's super tough, there's things I'm not going to do to put my arms out there, or if I'm going with a guy who doesn't want to get submitted, I mean, he can just kind of shell up and not do anything. And it's like, it's me making another man do something for me to open up without punching him it's tough. And then you have a guy where you can punch at the same time. As soon as you punch, it gives him just an inch of space to get up and get to his feet. That just makes it tough. And this is why I believe MMA is the best sport in the world. And even when I'm not on fight trips, I'm excited for the fights. I was just pissed this past Saturday. Like not pissed because I'm a sports guy. So I loved watching the Heat and Celtics, but I'm like, what? There's no fight this weekend? Like, what the hell? What's going on?
Yeah.
But when I'm on the road, I'm like, fuck, another fight this weekend?
Yeah.
But it's something I really enjoy because I feel like it's the truest sport except in judging.
Yeah. I tend to agree too. And one thing I was just thinking about the other day is I think it might be the most well-represented sport worldwide. You know what I mean? Where it's hard to pinpoint any one particular group of people who is dominating at any one point. There's guys fighting from Russia that are great. There are guys coming from South America that are great. You're really getting everyone. Whereas, we were talking about like American football the other day. You're not getting a lot of guys from across the world that are playing football. It's a very American-only sport. And I do think that that's one of the main reasons why MMA is so much better than some of these other ones is because you got the best of the world, not just one country.
Yeah. And it might be why MMA and soccer parallel in the rim in a way, because it's
cheap.
There's not a ton of equipment. That's why soccer, I feel like, is the most elite of the elite, because even a kid in the favelas, all you need is a ball and they can play in the street.
That's a goal. Let's go. That's it.
And with fighting, technically you need some gloves and a mouthpiece, but not really. You don't really need that kind of stuff.
Or wrestling.
I think you get the best of the best in those terms, because it's not something that requires pads. It's not something that, my mom can't afford to put me in football. My mom can't afford to
helmet
get me
and cleats and pads.
So I think those two sports you're going to see some, and the UFC is so smart. Like I keep saying this, but they are building UFC performance institutes in China.
Mexico, they built one.
Mexico. And then just imagine that. Mexico is one of the biggest fighting countries in the world.
Huge.
Just imagine, and they have 3 champions right now.
Yeah.
And just imagine what it's going to be like when that UFC PI starts to really take off and more fighters come in, because it's not something that's in a social class. Like a poor kid from Tijuana can go there. That's my dream. And, just a little bit of effort and, a lot of heart. Yeah. Well, a lot of effort and a lot of heart will get him, and he can see that this is a way I can feed my family, and this is the way. And those guys are the dangerous ones.
Yeah. And then the segue, this is another topic that everyone talks about in the UFC. You probably already know what I'm going to say. With all this money coming in, global money, does it bother you still that you fought 22 times under that banner and you're not set for life?
Yeah, it's because
you should be.
It's a little frustrating, but I'm not a guy that's like that. Like, oh man, what if, shoulda, coulda. Oh my God, if I would have won that fight. Like, I look back on some fights and I'm like, man, if I would have won that fight, I might have had a different thing. But it's like, well, fucking don't
Yeah.
leave it in the hands of the judge.
Yeah. Well, a guy like Max Griffin, right? Max
I'm just
Griffin,
kidding.
he's fought 7 years. He's a veteran of the sport, right? Andre Feely, right? They make great money for what most people think, but when I look at the NBA, the NFL, they're making league minimum compared to, what they are worth so much more.
Guys who are on the practice squad.
Yeah, we had a guy, Eric Bakhtiari, on and off the roster. His team was $30,000 for the week.
Yeah, I
Remember?
think that was once he
That was the low.
Once he got into the league, once he was
Yeah, he went from $5,000
His
as a
game
practice
checks.
squad to $30,000 a week.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So that's the lowest. That's $120,000 for the month, right? But they get paid all year.
The only thing,
Well, if they have a contract, but a practice squad, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, but okay, because one thing I'm
the only thing that is going to change for the sport is if they develop a union.
Yep.
And it's not going to happen.
Why is that?
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
You think Israel Adesanya, when he's getting Bentleys dropped off at his front yard on a truck?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen them do it. Uriah coached Ultimate Fighter.
Range Rover.
He dropped not a Range Rover, a supercharged Range Rover in front of the gym.
Yeah.
And that's it. And when John Jones crashed his Bentley, he lost it. This is what I've heard, but he lost a whole Bentley because he didn't have insurance on it. Because the insurance for a Bentley that expensive is like $3,000 a month or something insane like that. So it's just like those champions are rewarded so much. They're getting pay-per-view buys. You think I give a fuck about how much you making fucking 12,000 and 12,000? And if I make a stand, kind of like what
Nagano,
I don't really know the details on it, but it sounds like he really tried to.
Yeah, he's the first guy to really,
and now like look at him,
PFL.
Not that that's a bad thing, and he's getting paid, and he's gonna be able to provide for his family, but it's got to take every champion in every weight class to be like, I really care about this kid that's making 12 and 12. And I just don't think it's going to happen. But I mean, the cool thing is I've heard that California is working on a bill for fighters
retirement or something. Yeah.
Which would be great for me because I feel like
Foster is a good dude. He's a commissioner.
I feel like I would be grandfathered in, but it's still like there's so many things that I think about. And I was asking someone about it that worked for the commission. I won't say who is, but he's like, it's not a big deal. All they'll do is raise each ticket price $1, $2, over time, and it could help. I mean, having healthcare for the rest of my life would be extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Asking for like money, a retirement, like, or some kind of pension. Not really.
You should.
Yeah. I feel like I should, but just having having a backup plan where, I have insurance. It's not a big deal if I get sick. And like, cause you put a lot of damage. Like I have had 6 broken hands in my career.
Yeah.
And sometimes on cold days, like I feel like I'm getting arthritis in my hands, and it's just like, I'm not going to complain about anything that happened in my career because I value my career and it's been a wild ride, and I would never trade it for anything. Like that's a way to put it. Like, would you trade that to go work at a bank and have a retirement? No, I wouldn't.
No,
I enjoyed it, but just the insurance or the aftercare after you put your body through the most would be awesome.
Yeah, it's the least.
I think that would be the most important part of establishing a union would be the health care long term for fighters, because especially early on in the UFC, before it got to this point where it was now, it was kind of a free for all. There were a lot of guys that, I don't know if you remember watching that first UFC where we got 400-pound dudes fighting 160-pound dudes, and it's, everyone was just one thing. This was the Taekwondo guy versus the Judo guy. And now everybody's got everything. Everybody's got a wrestling background, a jits background, a stand-up background. They have it all. And I do think it's an important thing because, like you say, guys are going to have injuries that are lingering. It's not just, hey, I got hit in the face or, broken hand. Like I say, it's stuff later on in life where all of a sudden, I can't do this job because, broken hand or whatever. Also, I do I do have to call bullshit on something. I heard you say that you had 6 broken hands. You only have 2. So how is that possible?
Bro.
So I'm just saying, like, everything you've been saying before, I'm like, okay, this guy seems like he's making sense, but I'm like, this guy an octopus? What the hell, bro? Where's these extra
I can
hands
show
at?
you where each of them are broken. Broken here, classic boxer fracture, boxer break here, knuckle here, thumb was jacked up. But for the most part, I was able to stay pretty healthy for the most part.
Yeah.
I never really pulled out of a fight. I never turned down. I had to turn down one fight, but that was just because my coach didn't want me to fight the kid. But other than that, like, I showed up every time, short notice, sick, injured.
But you should be compensated. It frustrates me because I see, like, I look at the NBA and they're on the bench playing 2 minutes, making millions. And I think what it's going to take, did you ever hear about the World Fight League? Or it was Darren Owen, a guy that he worked for World Series of Fighting, now the PFL. It's going to take an organization with a lot of money, like 10 times Bellator, 10 times PFL, to what his vision was. He's trying to get Saudi money. So I'm talking like 500 million. He's still working on it. They've made a lot of headway, but it's going to take another organization to compete with the UFC. And their model was like the NBA model. They have teams. So like the Sacramento Grapplers, and there's 10 guys on the roster, but they get health care, they get salary, just like the NBA. They get 50% of revenue. That's what's going to take, right? Like, there's no Bellator, PFL. They don't have enough money.
And as that starts to happen, like, you'll see fighters like, well, I'd rather fight for these guys because they care about me a little bit more. I mean, the publicity is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
The notoriety is probably not going to be the same, but that's guaranteed money. And I'll be able to, count on healthcare for the rest of my life. And then that's kind of like, when you're right there, I mean, like, where would I rather go? I'd rather go where I'm going to be taken care of.
Or a legacy, or like Lance Palmer, right? He's a classic example. We were talking about him the other day. He went the other route, but now he's, like I say, he's driving Lambos.
$2 million.
Yeah.
$2
So,
million.
but the average fan probably isn't going to know who he is.
No, not at all.
But if he was in the UFC, everyone would know him, right? Probably.
The level of competition is a lot stiffer, and you have guys that want that. I have another Bellator kid that's like, man, I just got this knockout, and like, no one cares. No one cares. No one saw it. Bellator didn't do anything for it. When UFC guys have big knockouts, they'll get 50,000 followers in the next week.
Yeah.
When a Bellator guy gets a huge knockout, they're getting 5,000 followers, if that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they're just UFC and Dana White.
They're ahead of everyone else. But the PFL, they're paying. Lance, he's driving a Lambo. I don't see like a guy like Feely, I feel like, is in the caliber of Lance, right?
Right.
Feely's not driving a Lambo, but Feely has that legacy that people know him, that, so it's hard, it's, do you want the legacy?
Feely's coming on in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Thursday.
want you to ask him.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Would you rather
go to PFL,
guaranteed $2 million PFL, or what you're going to make in the UFC?
Yeah. It's hard. It's like
right now, your career's over.
Yeah.
Would you have rather kept your career in the UFC at all the money you made, all the publicity you've had, all the notoriety, or been a PFL fighter and made $2 million?
Well, it's more than just money, right? That's what you got to ask yourself.
For me, I can tell you.
Yeah. What about you?
Right now.
Yeah.
$2 million.
Yeah.
$2 million.
Yeah.
You can open up a lot of extra stuff with that.
It's a lot of Pilates studios.
You can put that money. That's what I'm saying.
Just the peace of mind. I mean, if you ask me in my fight career why I was in the fight career, it might change, but I think money's money. I think.
Well, money's not everything, but it's a close second.
But it helps. It helps a lot of problems.
It really does. And now that I have kids, like, just knowing that having that guaranteed money is better than potential money.
Yeah,
because anything could happen. Like the kid could blow out his knee, then he's out for another, and then come back and then blow it out again, and then he fights once in 3 years, once in 2 years. Like Josh Emmett, he had some crazy injuries and he was out for such a long time. And it's just like, he didn't have any disability coming in. He didn't have any money coming in. He just, and thankfully he's really good with his money. So he wasn't, hurting for money. He did a good job of, investing and saving money. But there's guys that aren't knowledgeable, and there's the guys that don't have good mentors that are telling them, like, dude, put your money away. Taxes are coming, man.
Like Cody Garbrandt, he made a killing, right, when he was coming up. And I wonder, I saw him with G-Wagons and all this crazy stuff. I wonder, but I mean, if we were 22, 23, making $1 million, we would have done the same thing.
It's hard for me to say, like, no, I'm not going to.
I would have done the same thing, but it is, that's the question I always ask these guys. Do you want the money or the legacy? Because UFC is on a different level. But I mean, everyone's probably going to say, here's the easy way out of that. I want to be the UFC and I want to get paid, but if you had to pick,
it'd be tough. I mean, thankfully Cody did some smart things with his money. And,
he had Uriah kind of,
he bought a house right after the fight, and he sold it and he got
made some money.
I don't know. I don't know how much his money is. I'm not in his bank account, but I know he made a good amount of money, where the following year he didn't fight that often, but he was still okay.
Yeah.
Now it's another thing too. Now he's got almost close to 3 million followers, and he's making money on social media. And so it's like,
and he's a good dude.
That's what the UFC,
can provide for him.
He wouldn't have made that in PFL.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have got that many followers in PFL.
Well, then you look at Lance Palmer in the PFL, like, how many of those guys are really making that much money? He's like the Conor McGregor of making money in that league. So that's another thing you got to look at. How many guys are driving Lambos in the PFL? Maybe a handful. Yeah.
Maybe him.
Yeah. So that's a tough one.
All right. Well, hey, one thing I got to ask you about while we're here. I think you have one of the coolest nicknames that I've encountered. Last Call. Is that
from a bar, right?
I was waiting for you guys to offer me a drink.
Right. I was just going to say, I've been hearing a lot of stories. Yeah, I was at a bar and I heard this thing. I was at a bar and I'm like, okay, this is starting to add up now. So Last Call is a nickname that was given to you. Can you explain how did that come to pass?
Yeah, it was in the off season of college in Palo Alto. Or Menlo Park.
Were you at Q's? Remember Q's?
No.
We Blue Chalk.
Blue Chalk. Yeah. The thing that we would do was go to Palo Alto Bowl on Thursday. It was just Thirsty Thursdays.
Yeah.
And we would just go there and bowl, and then right when they call Last Call, I would throw. There was 50-cent beers. I mean, they were like probably 10-ounce like Paps or something like that. But I would throw $20 down on the thing, and I was like, I want all these beers. So they would pour all those
40 beers right there.
I would hand them out to everyone, and I would drink a bunch. And then the next day in the off season, our coach was really smart, so he knew that we were obviously going to get hammered on Thursday night, because the only thing to do was go bowling, especially if you weren't 21.
6 a.m. workout Friday, right?
6 a.m.
I knew that was coming.
6 a.m.
My coach did the same thing at Azusa.
3-mile run, 6 a.m. And the team was pretty competitive. And like, I was the one that drank the most. So I was more competitive than anyone. So I was always, at the front of the pack, if not running the runs. And kind of that's how my roommate gave me the name Last Call. So
we used to have a girl that lived in the dorm near me. We referred to her as Last Call for a totally different reason. That was because that was the only time you would be looking for her. You know what I mean? It was one of those things. You're going to, hey, how are you doing? No, not interested. Hey, Last Call. What's going on? And so I was like, I hope it has nothing to do with that. But I am curious.
I wouldn't be mad about that.
But I am curious, what is your drink of choice? If you're just going to sit down right now, someone says, hey, we're going to hang out, you're going to have a couple drinks. What is your drink of choice? What do you like to drink?
That's tough.
Yeah.
Were you a whiskey guy or tequila guy?
I'm definitely a whiskey guy.
Whiskey. Okay.
I like Weller. But the go-to is probably Jameson if I'm just drinking some regular whiskey. If I'm trying to drink all night, I'll go
clear.
Like Tito's soda, and then if I'm just hanging out, I'll just drink some, either depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm barbecuing, I'll go lighter with the White Claw, but if I'm watching sports, I'll just drink IPAs.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm a cocktail guy myself, but I was talking about the other day, there's something about a barbecue. There's something about a grill where you're like, I got to have something in a can or a bottle. It's got to be a beer. It's got to be a claw, but But yeah, no, I was wondering. I'm like, okay, last call. You've definitely had some drinking stories. You've definitely had some things. But are you one of those guys? Are you kind of like me, where okay, I'm having this tonight and I'm going to keep doing that, or are you one of those where it doesn't matter? I've been doing Jameson, but here comes some tequila shots. Well,
You learn that in college not to do that.
right?
Well, I'm a people person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got to be
if
tough.
I have a buddy that would bring me, I mean, I'm always taking shots with buddies. My least preferred alcohol would probably be tequila.
Okay.
Warm tequila is the worst.
Oh, my
I just get a little angry. I get emotional in tequila. You know, I mean, if I've ever cried during alcohol, I'm
tequila.
sure tequila was involved in some way or another. But there are some really good tequilas.
Well, speaking of the last call, I know you got a coaching session here.
Yeah.
It was an honor to have you on. I appreciate what you've done for our organization and for the sport. Your breath of fresh air. Where can people find you on social media? And then your Pilates studio, right?
It would be Last Call 155. Just
perfect segue.
Name, and my weight class, and that's on all Twitter, Instagram. For the most part. And then my Hot Pilates studio, P20 Hot Pilates, it's on 20th and P. The website's hotpilatessacramento.com. And I mean, that for the most part, that's how you can reach me.
Sweet.
All right.
But I appreciate you. I had so much fun, man.
This is fun.
I'm scared to look at my phone to see how much time has gone by.
No, I had to do that, and I'm like, wow, this is really like
we're at 2
it was
hours.
seeming very, very simple. So
we usually go like an hour, and then kind of see how it goes. But this just flowed.
Didn't feel like 2 hours.
But
to
I know
me,
you got to be somewhere at 1 o'clock, right, or 2 o'clock.
Josh Emmett has a big fight coming up. He's the main event against Ilya Tapora. June 24th, so we're about 20 days out or so.
Okay.
So the UFC's there to record them, and we have a workout.
But at 2, right?
At 3.
You're good. You're good. Okay.
And then Macy Barber, I'm supposed to watch some tape. How's it looking on the card right now? Josh is the main event. Macy Barber is the co-main event. So it's going to be the first time as a coach I've had a main event, co-main event. So
that's cool.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Well, we're proud of you, and we look forward to getting more notoriety. You deserve it. And thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, man.
Thanks
Good luck
for coming
with the
into the Hive.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Two Bees in a Pod. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, and thank you for all the love and support.